Hello, good evening. This is Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present the news. Our top stories in the news tonight: Finance Minister SITUMBEKO MUSOKOTWANE denies owning the controversial 48 houses. An opposition leader predicts hunger in 2024. The Constitutional Court petitioned over President Hakainde Hichilema's refusal to move to State House. In international news, Morocco unveils hydrogen vehicle prototype SUV. And in sports news, Manchester City seek revenge against Madrid in the Champions League semi-final.
On Monday, 22nd May 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, the NDC President, Madam Savoy Imboila.
For me, also, I'd like to urge the president, he should not support his ministers. When a case of corruption has been brought to the table, investigate, and that is why also from the onset, we've been condemning the fact that the SCC is under the president's office, because when it comes to the appeal process, the president should be the last person. But right now, the way it is, the president is the number one person.
As they discuss Zambia's economy and pertinent issues on TSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello again, the news in detail. Chiwuyunji District Commissioner Alfred Shaputu says there are more flood victims who lost a number of goods and crops during the 2022-2023 rainy season in need of government support. He says the United Nations, through the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, is currently taking care of about 5,000 of the victims since April 2023. In an interview, Mr. Shaputu states that FAO is taking care of them under a 3-month agreement from April 2023, after which the World Health Organization, WHO, is expected to move in. Meanwhile, the district commissioner has predicted a low yield for the 2022-2023 farming season for some farmers within the district, stating that they may need to lobby government for food relief depending on the situation that will prevail.
Farming, we are affected. The rains did us a favor at first. The inputs were given in Chiwuyunji, and we planted. But the rains again, they were too heavy. We had floods. I think you saw ministers were coming here. Even now, I want to thank this government because is it FAO? Yes. FAO, they are helping our people. They are giving them, is it 800 per month for 3 months to push on them. And then that's where now they are who coming. So you can see we were hit. But we expect some to have something for, I think, to feed, but we'll still look to the government. It will not be the way it was expected, because we did a good job. We were up to date on reporting to DMMU each time we had these problems.
Some Lusaka bus drivers contravening along Freedom Way Road have appealed to the Lusaka City Council, the Police Traffic Department, and the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA, not to take action against them and halt their operations, as they will be unable to meet the conditions attached to operating from bus stations. The bus drivers fear that once their licenses are revoked, it will be difficult to sustain their livelihoods. They also allege that traffic police officers demand for money before the buses are impounded, and claim that accessing an operational slot in bus stations is exorbitant. The bus drivers have pleaded with the authorities to engage them and find a lasting solution.
Intervening in the central business district of Lusaka is the order of the day. The question as to why the Lusaka City Council, the Zambia Police and the Road Transport Safety Agency, RTSA, are failing to keep the vice remains a mystery. Meanwhile, some bus drivers operating on Lusaka's Freedom Way Road have alleged that the Zambia Police traffic officers are extorting money from them as no receipts are made available, especially in the morning. The bus drivers, who spoke on condition of anonymity, fear that their driving licenses risk being revoked by RTSA in line with a provision of the law and render them incapable of sustaining their families.
The police in the street, I'm going to 8 cent. But you got 14 hours. But you got 14 hours. 16:30, babwira bangena futi. Bakangena 16:30, bamagwira kugwira mamotoka, bapeleka kuwaya. Ishaza choka the following day. Bochoka kuja nishiwa iberengera milando manje. Yonse iri pa moto. So zapeza kati biyo penangu 2 pin 5 pin 180. So bachifukushibene mama moto kopeza ati ikachoka cheku jaka ilipilira aitenga ila aipaking olo aipasa muntu wina. Ishibambili bazaruza manchito. Mama Kuseni, ndarama za Kuseni zibeli sweet. Mama tenga chabeli za ndarama. Stizi na kamezi maende. Bati bakabula 16:30. Deba mama gwira mamoto kamanje bakagoneka kuja. Dili bakuchajinga manje. Contravening and obstruction. Bakuchajinga na contravening and obstruction. Babelenga na milando za meza pizika pamoto. Ndarama za mewe kulipira manje ku banki. Akupasa na malisi.
Mabasi pamone alongera pa their buses. If the council can come and start collecting levies, you know, it's a plus to them. Munga council, like, oh, the only thing munga chite, don't obstruct another fellow motorist. Musisakira kwene munga parking ile mumbali mwa road, but leave the road open. That way it can work also, like the council abwera ndiye wabo control pa they get their money and then they control even the congestion. And the other issue is that like police or balats, they only see like my buses in Fetipanga contravening.
The drivers are alleging that the formation of committees in bus stations collecting money amounting to over 1,000 kwacha monthly from each bus driver that wishes to start operating from the bus stations as one of the reasons they have continued to operate on Freedom Way. They have since called on the authorities to engage them and find a lasting solution to the vice, unlike revoking their licenses or punishing them.
Chikuru soma ife mapanja soma titana kuti watuze kuta nanga chamene chilengesa kuti mpezeke mu street nchani amafusa bamukati mu station ndiye bakati kula na meeting mama baitana baja then bakamisana then bakachoka kuja abo yamuvuta izo but besoma kuibeswa na titane kuti watifunza kuti chamene chilengesa nchani ngati tachitabwanyi then tikaenda kuli vakanso ni baja watu baulesi kozi mu street sema mama kwanza kupanga ndarama zolipira jana vakanso zabe bama lipira na station kozi munomonga mu street hapa ni parking slot hapa i parking slot bai pakaje sisi mabasi yambi sima kwanza kwa ku station ina wa kufika kugula mu street pali pa Stanley pali pangira pali pa CCF wakwanza kupanga che masamu abwiro
sionse anga kwanze mabasi kwenda kuti mu station mabasi ya pakisa unless kapena wakambe kuti.
However, impeccable sources within the stations confirmed the non-availability of space in bus stations and the existence of committees. Efforts to engage the council proved futile by broadcast time. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Food Reserve Agency, FRA, has set the price of a 50-kilogram bag of white maize for 2023 at 280 kwacha, a 100 kwacha increase from 180 in 2022, while the price of a 40-kilogram bag of paddy rice has been maintained at 200 kwacha from last year's price. Announcing the 2023 FRA food buying price Wednesday, FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia also says the agency will, however, not be buying any soybeans from farmers, as it has an excess of 100,000 metric tons of carryover soybeans, which it has failed to find a market for. The FRA Board Chairperson says the prices have been arrived at after wide stakeholder consultation and prevailing market conditions to ensure that farmers get a good return for their investment. More in this report.
Farmers across the country have been holding their breath in readiness for the 2023 food buying price from the Food Reserve Agency FRA, as many of them say they have toiled and labored to protect their crops until maturity due to various factors like climate change and an increase in the cost of production. FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambweza Thursday morning announced that the agency has also taken into consideration the said factors and has therefore set the buying price at 280 kwacha for a 50 kilogram bag of white maize from 180 kwacha in 2022, 200 kwacha for a 40 kilogram bag of paddy rice, the same as in 2022, while adding that they will not buy any soya beans as they struggle to find soya bean market and have carried over 100,000 metric tons. Mr. Hambweze asked that the agency will in 2023 operate 1,200 satellite depots to provide market for small-scale farmers across the country.
We'll be buying a bag of maize, 50 kg bag of maize, at 280 kwacha.
Not that bad.
We'll be buying one bag, 50 kilogram of maize at 280 kwacha a bag, which translates to 5,600 kwacha a ton. Last year we were buying at 180 kwacha a bag. We have increased the price by 100 kwacha. So we're buying at 280 kwacha the 50 kilogram bag of maize. This price, ladies and gentlemen, is cost reflective. This price reflects to a closer extent the happenings in the regional market. Millers are still drawing maize from FRA. We do not expect this price that we're announcing today to distort minimum prices for at least the next 1 month.
Reacting to the statements, Grain Traders Association of Zambia chairperson George Luakopoulos says the maize price will help in reducing smuggling, while urging government to consider opening up borders once the local market is satisfied.
Once we have the opportunity to assess how much maize has been produced, we call this the post-harvest report, which can be conducted and presented to the stakeholders sometime beyond October or November. At that point, we can assess and understand whether we have surplus quantities and whether we can consider opening for the export of maize.
Meanwhile, Millers Association of Zambia President Andrew Chintala says there is need to quickly release the 2023 crop forecast survey while calling for the relaxing of local movement restrictions for maize now that buying has officially started.
It remains a challenge to us without the crop forecast survey results to plan where and when to enter the market. We know that that information is quite critical because it is detailed in a sense that it is going to spell out where maize or certain quantities of maize is supposed to come.
The 2023 crop buying exercise is expected to create about 10,000 seasonal jobs, while FRA has committed to paying all farmers on time. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Meanwhile, Citizens First Party President Harry Kalaba has urged the government to engage the Zambia National Service, ZNS, to deliver 50% of the maize to ensure that millers access the maize at a cheaper price and prevent a situation where milling meal goes beyond the reach of most citizens in 2024. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Kalaba says the country may soon see itself back into a situation where a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast milling meal fetches for as high as 300 kwacha due to the buying price set by FRA for farmers, as millers will add transportation and production costs to the price of milling meal. The CFP president notes that while the interests of farmers have been considered, this has not been balanced with the interests of citizens, a situation which may lead to hunger if left uncorrected. More in this report.
While boasting to be one of the main maize farming countries in Africa with a steady annual supply, the price of milling meal, which is Zambia's staple food, is always the topic on the political scene, as it is said to be beyond the reach of many ordinary citizens. Barely 1 month ago, what was referred to by many political stakeholders as a national crisis hit the country as there were reports of widespread maize and mealie meal shortages, causing the prices to shoot up, and citizens queuing up just to buy a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast mealie meal, while some shopping malls also restricted the purchase to only one bag per person. With the Food Reserve Agency FRA, which is the main maize buyer from farmers, having announced that it will be buying a 50-kilogram bag of white maize at 280 kwacha from 180 kwacha in 2022, the Citizens First Party CFP, through its president Harry Kalaba, have predicted that the price of mealie meal will unreasonably shoot up come 2024. FRA has also announced that it will only buy white maize and paddy rice from farmers and not soya beans, as it has excess.
The suggested maize price that should have been done should have been, first of all, you should have looked at the market environment. What is obtaining on the market? Then you strike a balance. Because as citizens first would have wanted to strike a balance between what we are getting from the farmers and what the price of mealie meal would be. That is why we would have said Zambia National Service needs to come to kickstart working. Because if Zambia National Service can begin producing 50% of this nation's consumption capacity, it automatically means that the price of mealie meal will come down. Even if you give the farmers that kind of a price, because of ZNS producing, the price of mealie meal will not be affected. Now you have to factor in transport from those that will be buying, plus production costs. So strictly speaking, a bag of mealie meal will be costing well beyond 270, 300 kwacha per kilo, per 25 kg kilogram bag going into next year. Now, so Zambians must brace themselves. When we told them that this government doesn't know what it is doing, these are things we're talking about. They like playing politics at the expense of understanding what is going on. And because of this, there will be a disaster. There will be a hunger in this country. It's a very big scandal because basically you are telling the soya beans growers that government is not interested in that. We have been talking as Citizens First. We are saying that this is the only country where you produce soya beans and yet soya chunks are being made in Tanzania. Soya chunks are being made in Zimbabwe. We are not even ashamed. We are saying ourselves, this is the time to begin promoting the soya beans growers so that we can begin thinking of growing the industry. But instead of upping the price of soya beans, you completely obliterate the soya beans farmers so they can be at the whims of briefcase businessmen and women.
Meanwhile, Buy Zambia campaign executive director Ivan Zingoma has called on private soybean buyers to buy at a price that will not disadvantage farmers.
One of the seasonal buyers is not buying this time around. It means that they will have enough stock. This, I think, through the Farmer Association, the Zambia National Farmers Union, the farmers should be encouraged to sell the commodity to soya crushers. Has
been advised to see to it that they safeguard the interest of all citizens, both farmers and consumers. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Zambia Gender Assessment and Gender-Based Violence Assessment reports have shown that 29% of girls aged between 15 to 19 have their first child. The report also indicates that 36% of females aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence and 14% have experienced sexual violence. Speaking during the launch of the reports in Lusaka today, World Bank Country Manager Sahara Pupende has attributed adolescent pregnancies to early marriage, especially in rural areas. And Dr. Punde notes that in order to achieve gender parity, Zambia requires additional work in implementing and scaling up evidence-based policies that guarantee gender equality across the intersecting dimensions of vulnerability facing women and girls in the country. Meanwhile, Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary Administration Noriana Muneko commits to reducing gender inequality as provided for in the 8th National Development Plan.
Despite being recognized under the country's 8th National Development Plan for 2022 to 2026, gender inclusion and gender-based violence remain topical in today's society. The World Bank believes eradicating barriers such as improved education and elimination of gender gaps at all levels of human and socio-economic development is key in attaining gender equality. Speaking during the launch of the Zambia Gender Assessment and Zambia Gender-Based Violence Assessment Wednesday, World Bank Zambia Country Manager Sakunde calls for a strong enforcement and monitoring system for gender-based violence and hopes the Gender Commission will be present to fully operationalize the country's gender policy.
Zambia's women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence, and 14% have experienced sexual violence. Stigma and lack of resources discourage women from seeking support when they experience limited and fragmented resource allocation, weak monitoring and coordination, and a lack of enforcement have constrained implementation of Zambia's policies and systems. Gender and gender-based violence data systems are lacking, thereby affecting the systematic collection of data to inform decision-making and ensure proper support services are provided of gender experts within government departments across the different layers of government continues to negatively affect efforts to enforce the provisions of existing legislation addressing gender gaps and eliminating gender-based violence. The continued absence of Gender Commission has contributed to the delayed establishment of implementation framework to fully operationalize the gender policy.
The Gender Division Permanent Secretary, represented by Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary Administration, Noriana Muneku, believes the launch of the gender and gender-based violence assessments will provide an opportunity to promote the country's gender equality and gender-based violence. Ms. Muneku believes incorporating boys in the gender imbalance and gender-based violence is key to winning the fight against the vice.
Gender imbalance, I think even more funding should also go towards ensuring that the boy child is educated right from inception of the disadvantages of engaging in violence or towards the other sex, because the man that he will grow into speaks volumes from where he's coming.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News in Lusaka.
And now in court news, Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. SITUMBEKO MUSOKOTWANE, has denied owning the controversial 48 houses, now 51, of Lusaka's Chalala area. The Finance Minister took the stand as a defense witness before the Specialized Economic and Financial Crimes Court to testify in a case where a couple of Chalala area is accused of possessing 48 properties, which were later known to be 51 at a cost of 37 million kwacha. Dr. MUSOKOTWANE has told the court that he is not the owner of the said houses, which are deemed to be proceeds of crime, nor is he related to the accused. The minister was summoned by the court to give his testimony in this matter, following accusations from some parts of the media that he was the owner of the said houses. More in this report.
Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. SITUMBEKO MUSOKOTWANE, appeared before the Specialized Economic and Financial Crimes Court Wednesday to testify in a matter where a couple of Lusaka's Chalala area is accused of corruptly acquiring the controversial 48 houses, now 51. The Finance Minister took stand as a defense witness, and during his testimony this morning, he denied being the owner of the said infamous properties. Following the discovery of the infamous 48 houses, now 51, Dr. MUSOKOTWANE was implicated in the scandal where some section of the media alleged that he was the owner and the accused in this matter, Charles Loyana, was his nephew. The Finance Minister has however told Magistrate Fides Amaundu that he is not the owner of the said properties, which are deemed to be proceeds of crime, nor is he related to the accused. The Minister was subpoenaed by the court to give his testimony in this matter following an application that was made by the defense team. In his further testimony, he has told Magistrate Amaundu that the allegations against him were politically motivated. The application that was made by the defense in the previous court session also saw the court subpoena Tarsila Lungu, the daughter to former President Edgar Lungu. She was also accused of being the owner of the said properties, but she did not adhere to the subpoena. The Anti-Corruption Commission accuses 51-year-old Charles Loyana, a senior accountant at the Ministry of Finance, and his 46-year-old wife, Susan Loyana, an accountant at the Ministry of Works and Supply, both civil servant, of possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime worth more than 37 million kwacha. During trial, SEC Investigations Officer Sweden Lusaka had narrated before court how he resorted to arresting the duo. The defense team had also given him a hard time as they tried to discredit his testimony that the accused might have illegally acquired the properties. After hearing several witness testimony, the Lusaka Magistrate Court found them with a case to answer and placed them on defense. The finance minister is among some of the witnesses they had called. Magistrate Amaundwa set the 30th of June as the date for judgment. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Patriots for Economic Progress leader Sean Tembo has petitioned the Constitutional Court seeking a declaration that the refusal by the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema to move to State House contravenes the Constitution. The petition filed by the opposition leader seeks to compel the head of state to shift to Nkwazi House and avert the unnecessary wastage of resources as well as public safety hazards. More in this report.
The debate on the need for Republican President Hakainde Hichilema to move to Nkwazi House has now gone to the Constitutional Court, with opposition leader of Patriots for Economic Progress Sean Tembo filing a petition. Mr. Tembo has cited the Attorney General as the respondent. According to his petition, Mr. Tembo wants the Constitutional Court to compel the head of state to shift to State House and avert the unnecessary wastage of resources as well as public safety hazard. He has contended that the continued refusal or neglect by President Hichilema to shift amounts to imprudent and irresponsible use of public resources, as it does not promote fair and equitable use of public resources, adding that these result in loss of economic productivity and unnecessary inconvenience to the general public and contravenes Article 198 of the Constitution. Among other reliefs sought, Mr. Tembo wants a declaration that President Hichilema has continued to inconvenience the residents of Lusaka's Chalala area with his daily movement from his private residence to State House, thereby putting their lives in danger to public safety. He has told the Constitutional Court that the planned renovation of Nkwazi House can only be expensive to the government if the head of state plans to uproot the existing kitchen, bathroom and toilet equipment and install those with gold or diamond if he plans to match those at his private residence. He has wondered why the Vice President Mutalena Lumango on the 19th of November 2021, during the Vice President's question time in Parliament, indicated that the renovation of Nkwazi House was expensive and that government did not have resources to do so at the time. He states that Zambia's multiple socio-economic needs, all of which depends on taxpayers' money to resolve, adding that the president movement from his private residence to State House is a huge cost. The opposition leader has reminded the Constitutional Court the specific mandate it has been given under Article 118 has read together with Article 128 of the Constitution to promote and protect the purposes and principles of the Constitution, and that in exercising its jurisdiction, it should be guided by the principles set out in Article 267. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
And still in court news, former Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary Dr. Patrick Nkanza has sued the state before the Lusaka High Court, seeking 550,000 kwacha as damages for unlawful prosecution. In a statement of claim filed before the court, Dr. Nkanza claimed to have been unlawfully arrested in 2022 by the Anti-Corruption Commission on allegations that during the tenure of his office, he signed a contract for the construction of the FTJ Chiluba University worth 200 million kwacha without confirming availability of funds. He submitted that the state later withdrew the matter against him. He claims that SEC, without reasonable probable cause, arrested and maliciously prosecuted him for a year. He now seeks special damages, stating that he was prosecuted without the SEC conducting proper investigations. And in other news, the Advocates for National Development and Democracy Executive Director Samuel Banda has called on President Hakainde Hichilema to take advantage of Thursday's press conference to update the nation on the progress made in revamping Konkola Copper Mines PLC and Mopani Copper Mines. Mr. Banda emphasizes that the Copperbelt province is bleeding poverty due to the challenges at the two mines. He has told journalists in Lusaka Wednesday that they expect the head of state to announce the progress made so far in dealing with the impasse surrounding Vedanta Resources and KCM.
We're happy that our Republican President Hakainde Hichilema, will be addressing the nation tomorrow. Our appeal is that he should use his press briefing to update the nation on the progress made regarding KCM and Vedanta negotiations. This issue of KCM and Vedanta has taken abnormal time. It has taken too long. The government had promised to resolve this issue in the first quarter, and first quarter passed. And now we're in the second quarter of 2023, yet government has not updated the nation. The non-functionality of KCM and Mopani, they are impacting our economy negatively, they're impacting the economy of Copperbelt negatively. People have lost their jobs, businesses and suppliers have collapsed due to non-functionality of these two mines. And our view is that the government should take advantage of Vedata's proposed investment package, the capitalization package, which is $3 billion US dollar and 20 million for corporate social responsibility, which we believe that if that is injected, we'll be able to revamp KCM and our struggling economy. More importantly, they'll be able to create the much needed employment and business opportunities.
The Bank of Zambia has alleged that most of the resources being borrowed by the private sector are not being used for investment but for the consumption purposes. Speaking at the monetary policy announcement meeting in Lusaka Wednesday, Central Bank Governor Dr. Danny Kalialia says credit to the private sector continued to grow to 35.9% in March 2023 compared to 34.2% recorded last year, but that there is nothing in the economy to show where the resources are being spent. Meanwhile, economist Trevor Hambai says most businesses are failing to borrow from the banks because the interest rates are too high and that the conditions attached to borrowing are not favorable. And the committee has announced an increase in the monetary policy by 25 basis points to 9.5% from 9.25%, taking into account the high inflation rate and the delay in the debt restructuring process. More in this report.
As Zambia continues to grapple with low productivity levels among the private sector, the Bank of Zambia says credit to the private sector in March of 2023 grew to 35.9% compared to 34.2% recorded in the same period last year. This means that the private sector borrowed more resources in the forecast period, but the Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Danny Kalialia has wondered where the borrowed resources are being spent, as there are no activities in the economy showing investment apart from the fact that those borrowing are doing so in order to build houses.
What we see, what we see currently is that a lot of credit is going to the households. And we have seen banks advertising for personal loans being available.
The governor has since encouraged the Zambian people to borrow resources and invest in key economic areas that will contribute to the development of the country.
What we are trying to do there is that can people be able to borrow directly for the projects that they are doing rather than coming through the channel of personal loans? Because when you do personal loans, usually the underlying collateral is the payslip that you have.
And economist Trevor Hambai says the reason why companies are failing to borrow in order to invest is simply because the lending rates by the bank are too high.
And part of the private sector is obviously the entrepreneurs, which is mostly our SMEs. this sector has generally not been able to borrow from the financial institutions. There are a number of factors that are speaking to this. The first one is the high cost of borrowing, is that the interest rate that they are being charged is far too high for them to borrow in the long term.
On the other hand, Dr. Kalyaya says the lower projected crop harvest for the 2022 to 2023 farming season, as well as the high price of maize, will have a negative impact on the Zambian economy, which will contribute to the rise in the country's inflation rate.
Anxiously waiting to hear what the Minister of Agriculture will be saying, what is the level the crop production this year is. But signs are that it will be less than what it was the previous year. And that, if that materializes and we don't do other things, we may see that impact negatively on our inflation.
On the other hand, the Central Bank of Zambia has for the second time in 2023 revised the monetary policy rate upwards, but this time by 25 basis points from 9.25% recorded in the first quarter to 9.5% in the second quarter of 2023. Puris Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet Television Main News. Join us for more news after the break.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
On Monday, 22nd May 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, the NDC President, Madam Savoy Imboila.
For me, also, I'd like to urge the president, he should not support his ministers. When a case of corruption has been brought to the table, investigate, and that is why also from the onset, we've been condemning the fact that the SCC is under the president's office, because when it comes to the appeal process, the president should be the last person. But right now, the way it is, the president is the #1 person.
As they discuss Zambia's economy and pertinent issues on TSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. SITUMBEKO MUSOKOTWANE has called for consistent and effective monitoring of budget execution by all stakeholders in their sectors of operation and interests. The minister has affirmed that the implementation of the 2023 budget is on course as all major budgeted programs are now being funded considerably. Dr. MUSOKOTWANE has also appealed to members of the public and the corporate world to actively participate in the formulation of the 2024 national budget and the 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework. Meanwhile, the finance minister says the government had in April 2023 released a total of 11.4 billion kwacha for developmental programs and public service delivery. He says from the total amount, 2 billion kwacha was released for transfers, subsidies and social benefits, whilst 2.2 billion kwacha was spent on debt services and dismantling of arrears, and 3.6 billion kwacha was spent on the public service wage bill. In addition, the government released 3.2 billion kwacha for the implementation of various government programs and general operations, while 359.7 million kwacha was spent on road infrastructure. The common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, has recorded an increase in trade from $2 billion in 2010 to $13 billion in 2022. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, COMESA Director for Trade and Customs, Christopher Onyango, has attributed the increase to improvement in the diversity of products being traded in. Dr. Onyango says the harmonization of rules and regulations in the region to support small-scale traders has also worked in favor of the region. He, however, says the cost of doing business remains high in the region and that this has posed a challenge to trading between countries. The doctor also said domesticating COMESA instruments has been a challenge because it is entirely dependent on individual legislators and governments to create and implement policies. Speaking at the same briefing, COMESA Director for Infrastructure and Logistics, Jean-Baptiste Mutabazi, says infrastructure development has still remained a hindrance to trade and that the regional bloc has been investing in feasibility studies to improve infrastructure.
There are two ways, as I said, one of which is the harmonization of standards for all products which are traded. So this has been a slow process. The products are many. And so to try to overcome that, what we are using is also to harmonize those standards within the national governments and accept recognition of products which are already tested. So if you are a trader in Zambia, of course, you have to undergo the mandatory tests in various laboratories. It could be the TBT or it could be in terms of the SPS measures. So once you do that, then once issued the certificate, we try to make it possible for the trading partner to recognize that you have done it, so that the product is not subjected to 2 or 3 other tests. So that is one of the rules that are being used. But I want to say that so far the reporting of that is very minimal, and we are working on ways of ensuring that those issues related to those measures or standards are actually taken into and addressed.
Zambia Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Colin Barry has expressed satisfaction with a military transport aircraft manufactured by Leonardo Aircraft Division of Italy that are operating within Zambia and the SADC region. Speaking on the sidelines of the Aerospace 2023 conference held in Rome, Lieutenant General Barry said the aircraft C-27 Spartan is extensively used in peace operations and emergency relief. Lieutenant General Barry cited operations in the SADC mission in Mozambique, where the aircraft had been used for support operations and disaster responses. He says the aircraft also played a major role in the relief operations in parts of Malawi that were affected by the devastating Cyclone Freddy. Lieutenant General Barry has, however, indicated that while the Zambia Air Force has highly skilled professional officers, there is a need for more equipment.
There are a lot of challenges that have come up over the years because of the complications that come about from operating a more complex, more active medium of air. We have the smaller, maybe we'd say the the boundaries between Air Force and Space Force getting smaller and smaller. Now there must be a sort of seamless attitude, a seamless approach to how we operate in these two places, air and space. So with countries that are here that have got highly complex systems in place, we want to learn from them the lessons that they've picked up through the years. In the military, we prefer to discuss these things because lessons come at a very high cost.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take a second and final break. After the break, we'll have international and sports news. Stay tuned.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
On Monday, 22nd May 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, the NDC President, Madam Savoy Imboila.
For me, also, I'd like to urge the president, he should not support his ministers. When a case of corruption has been brought to the table, investigate, you know. And that is why also from the onset, we've been condemning the fact that the SCC is under the president's office, because when it comes to the appeal process, the president should be the last person. But right now, the way it is, the president is the number one person.
As they discuss Zambia's economy and pertinent issues on TSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. And now in international news, Moroccan entrepreneurs have unveiled a hydrogen vehicle prototype made in Morocco. The projects are a significant milestone for the country and will strengthen the Made in Morocco label, according to King Mohammed. During the presentation, the King examined the model from the Neo Motors car, a company owned by Moroccan capital, as well as the prototype of a hydrogen vehicle created by NAMX called the Hydrogen Utility Vehicle HUV. Manufacturers say the HUV model will be equipped with a central hydrogen tank complemented by 6 removable capsules to deliver a high driving range and facilitate quick hydrogen refueling in a few minutes. For more in news beyond our borders, we'll take a roundup.
Moroccan entrepreneurs have unveiled a hydrogen vehicle prototype made in Morocco. The projects are a significant milestone for the country and will strengthen the Made in Morocco label, according to King Mohammed VI. During the presentation, the King examined the model from Neo Motors car, a company owned by Moroccan capital, as well as the prototype of the hydrogen vehicle created by NAMX, called the Hydrogen Utility Vehicle HUV. Manufacturers say the HUV model will be equipped with a central hydrogen tank, complemented by 6 removable capsules to deliver a high driving range and facilitate quick hydrogen refueling in a few minutes. On the sidelines of the ceremony, King Mohammed VI honored Nassim Belkayat and Anaja with the Wissam Al Kafa Al Fikra Award. Set to be released in 2025, NAMX responds to the rising demand for hydrogen and hybrid cars amid an increasingly prevailing shift towards clean energy sources and decarbonization worldwide. Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. On Tuesday evening, gunmen in a part of the city attacked a U.S. convoy, killing 4 people. 2 of the victims of the attack in the state were U.S. consulate employees, while the other 2 were police officers. The Nigerian police say the attack happened on the Atani Osamale Road in Ogbaru region. The The police also said the attackers kidnapped 3 other people and set their vehicle on fire. Washington says no U.S. citizens were in the convoy which was traveling in the state. Nigerian authorities often blame violent attacks in the region on the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB movement, which is fighting for a breakaway state in the southeast of the country. The group has so far made no public comments on this attack. Anambra and other parts of the southeast have seen a sharp rise in attacks on security forces since IPOB launched an armed wing in December 2020. The group's leader, Nnamdi Kanu, is currently in government custody and faces trial for treason.
After a 7-year hiatus, passenger service has finally resumed on the main line of the Congo Ocean Railway connecting Pointe-Noire to Brazzaville. 1 train per week has been connecting Congo's 2 largest cities since April 27th.
I am at the central station of Brazzaville because I am waiting for a connecting train to go to the locality of Kibwende in the Pool region to give training to local communities there. I am happy that the train is back to this region of Pool.
Du train sur l'axe du Pôle.
It was the destruction of bridges in the southern Pool region during clashes between the Congolese security forces and ex-ninja fighters that caused the closure of the line in 2016. Authorities reopened freight traffic in November 2018. Now residents from Pointe-Noire or from the western localities of Dolizy on Kayi can travel thanks to the line commonly called the Gazelle. Many economic operators use the train line. 2 of them who embarked on the 510-kilometer-long journey lasting for 16 hours expressed mixed feelings.
We left Pointe-Noire yesterday at 4 p.m. Given the state of the railway line, the train ran slowly until we arrived here in Brazzaville. Inside the train, frankly, the toilets leave a lot to be desired. I told the ticket inspector and the gendarmerie inside, I hope my observations will be considered.
The rays of the Congo Ocean Railway are old, Transport Minister Honoré Saïken said. However, he also stated his ambition to launch refurbishment works.
This railroad is not 2-year-old. It has operated for a long time. Therefore, we have a lot of experience and have skilled personnel. Since it is a strategic corridor in the sub-regional transit, the railroad must move forward. This is a question for which we should not turn the difficulty into impossibility. The difficulty is there, but the impossibility can be overcome. I hope that with a major donor and determined Congolese, we will move forward. The railroad has long been the backbone of the Congolese economy. It could pride itself on being the only land route between Brazzaville and Pointe-Noire. However, it has recently been competing with a paved road built thanks to Chinese cooperation.
Lode Martial à Brazzaville pour Africa News.
We now have sports news. Manchester City hosts Real Madrid in the second leg of the Champions League semi-final this evening with a tie delicately poised at 1-0 during last week's first leg. City's home advantage and red-hot form make them slight favourites, but Madrid's Champions League pedigree is second to none, and they have made comebacks and unlikely wins in their specialty in recent years. City, unbeaten since early February, are looking to win their first Champions League title, while defending champions Madrid are looking to make it a record extending 15 titles this year. The winners of the clash will be favourites to beat Inter Milan on June 10th in Istanbul, Turkey, after the Italian giants eased into the Champions League final with a 3-0 aggregate victory over AC Milan, as Lautaro Martinez's goal sealed a 1-0 second leg win over their rivals at the San Siro Stadium. We end the news, but before we go, the headlines once again. Finance Minister SITUMBEKO denies owning the controversial 48 houses. An opposition leader predicts hunger in 2024. The Constitutional Court petitioned over President Hakainde Hichilema's refusal to move to State House. In international news, Morocco unveils hydrogen vehicle prototype HUV. In sports news, Manchester City seek revenge against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from Lamentations 3, verse 25 to 26. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.